Welcome to the final chapter of The Rise and Fall of Kwame Kilpatrick. On the last episode of The Rise and Fall of Kwame Kilpatrick, Part 3, Kwame's wife, Carlita, had gotten information about a secret party that was supposed to go on at the Manoogian Manson. And the word on the curb is everybody who was somebody was at this party. And everything under the sun was supposed to be going on at this party. And that includes strippers, drugs, alcohol, and everything else. Well, once Carlita got this information, honey, she showed up to the party and she was not on the guest list. According to sources, she saw the stripper Strawberry giving her husband a lap dance, and she was like, this is not going down on her watch. She took matters into her own hands, allegedly, and busted up this party and tried to bust up on the stripper Strawberry. Strawberry was getting the best of her, but honey, Carlita was like, this is not going out like this, and pulled out a 4x4 or something like that and started swinging. Honey, she was whooping on Strawberry's butt. And Strawberry knew at that time it was time to get the hell out of Dodge, honey. She fled the scene and took off running. Now, the word on the curb is that Strawberry was scared for her life. She was getting threatening calls from Kwame Kilpatrick's wife, Carlita. There were other things that were taking place, that she was being followed. It was just an unsafe environment, and something had to be done. Unfortunately, nothing was done in time. Tamara Greene, a.k.a. Strawberry, was then murdered. The family decided to file charges against Kwame Kilpatrick because they believed that he had knowledge of what took place in regards to this whole Manoogian Manson party that ended up killing their loved ones. Well, at this time, Kwame was serving time in the penitentiary for his charges that he had with Christine Beatty, and in addition to the misuse of government funds, etc., etc. When all of the evidence was gathered, the judge was presented with that information, and he decided to throw this lawsuit out because there was no proof of an Manoogian Manson party that took place, and there was no supporting evidence provided to prove the murder of Tamara Greene, a.k.a. Strawberry. Welcome to the Rise and Fall of Kwame Kilpatrick, Part 4. The final chapter. On March 24, 2008, Kilpatrick was charged with 8 felony counts, including perjury, misconduct in office, and obstruction of justice. The Detroit City Council approved the request to remove Kilpatrick from office on August 8, 2008. He announced his resignation as mayor effective September 18, 2008, and he entered a guilty plea to 2 felonies for obstruction of justice due to lying about the extramarital affair under oath, misrepresented settlement to the citizens of Detroit, and city council. He was ordered to pay restitution to the city in the amount of $1 million. Loss of his pension, served 4 months in the Wayne County Jail, served 5 years probation, and surrendered his law license. He also was prohibited from running for public office for 5 years. Kilpatrick served 7 years in total and was released on January 20th, 2021. He was released 2 years early thanks to Donald Trump, who granted executive clemency to 237 individuals charged or convicted of federal crime offenses, and Kwame was one of those individuals. Kwame is now married to Leticia McGee and living in Georgia. He and his wife met while he was incarcerated, and they now have launched his Movemental Ministry. Movemental Ministry is a virtual church registered in Georgia and will offer Saturday services, Bible study sessions, and workshops. Kwame has thus returned to Detroit to preach since being released and has now welcomed his first child with Leticia McGee. Leticia, who is also the mother of an 11-year-old boy from a previous relationship, is excited and overcome with joy about their baby boy's arrival. To date, Kwame Kilpatrick still owes the city of Detroit a little over $854,000 of his more than $1 million restitution order. Let's take a look at what Christine Beatty has been up to. Christine Beatty was sentenced to jail where she served 69 days for obstruction of justice back in 2012, and she also filed for bankruptcy. She was released from probation since 2013. Let's take a listen about her bankruptcy.
Once the most powerful woman in the Kilpatrick administration is in trouble, big financial trouble, in fact, owing hundreds of thousands of dollars she cannot pay. 7 Action News investigator Ross Jones joins us now. Ross, it sounds like she's in some deep financial trouble.
Sure is, Carolyn. Good evening. As Kwame Kilpatrick's very public fight with the Fed stretches into its 3rd month, Christine Beatty has been waging a much more quiet struggle of her own. Hers is with her finances, and things are looking pretty bleak. As Kwame Kilpatrick faced brutal testimony in his criminal trial today down in Georgia, things aren't going much better for his old lover and chief of staff. Christine Beatty is crying poor in these court records. In October, she filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy, owing almost $390,000 in liabilities and reporting less than $85,000 in assets. Unlike the former mayor, Beatty's fall from grace has been much less public. She moved down to Atlanta not long after serving jail time for perjury in the text message scandal and found work at an Atlanta law firm as a consultant. Last year, she made more than $100,000, but so far this year, she's made less than a third of that. Nowhere near enough to pay down scores of debts, a $220,000 mortgage for a Detroit home now worth only a fraction, $33,000 in student loans, $42,000 owed on a Ford Explorer, and smaller expenses too, like a $95 parking ticket in Dallas, where her former lover now lives. As for assets, Beatty doesn't list many, only $2,200 in household goods, $500 in clothing, $250 in jewelry, a far cry for the woman who not long ago was a rising star among Detroit power brokers. Now, she's just broke. A call to Beatty in Atlanta was not returned tonight, but her lawyer told us that bankruptcy was her last choice. We should point out, though, Beatty is up to date with all of her restitution payments to the city of Detroit. You'll remember she agreed to pay $100,000 back in 2008 after the text message scandal. She's paid off about $15,000 so far. Her lawyer said tonight that paying off the rest is her highest priority.
Now, Ross, we know she's trying to get her life back together. Any word on whether she's working, or because it's really difficult to file for bankruptcy today?
She does seem to be working at a law firm. She's a consultant. We're not exactly sure what sort of services she's providing, but her income went down significantly last year. Right now, less than she was making last year.
Ross, thank you.
So as you hear, Christine has moved to Georgia and started broadcasting on a radio station. Let's take a listen to what other information I was able to obtain in regards to this.
Beatty has been out of the headlines for years, but today, the former Kilpatrick mistress is sharing her story and launching a weekly radio show.
Defender Kevin Dietz sat down with Beatty to talk about that new show, but also to look back on the text message scandal that rocked Detroit to its core.
She was Kwame Kilpatrick's secret lover. She ran off to Atlanta to avoid the spotlight. But now, Christine Beatty is back.
Kevin, can you not do the camera thing right now?
Christine Beatty used to run from TV cameras. That was a decade ago when she was the chief of staff who was exposed in a torrid sex message scandal and affair with her boss, Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick.
Your entire, life is in front of everybody to judge and ridicule and, make statements. And that's a tough thing for anybody to be in.
Now she's happily sitting for interviews talking about her new Queen Latifah-produced reality TV show, Bottoms Up, about women who have fallen from grace, and her weekly local talk radio show on AM 910, both focusing on
redemption and, how you move forward and reclaiming your life, when you've lost it.
Kwame Kilpatrick went to prison for 28 years for racketeering. He is currently asking the Supreme Court for a new trial.
I hope, I pray that he gets a new trial and released.
Beatty, an unnamed co-conspirator, cooperated and wasn't charged. She was charged and pled guilty to obstruction of justice for lying on the witness stand about having an affair with Kilpatrick.
Wow, I'm less afraid to perjure myself in a court of law where you face jail versus hurting your family, your city, and your loved ones.
Beatty doesn't want to talk about her taking money from the Kilpatrick Civic Fund.
I did work for that. So, and that's why, again, that's why I said I don't want to discuss the past.
Has she changed over the years?
A lot of people remember you as the woman who got pulled over by police officers and said, "Do you know who the F I am?" Mm-hmm. Who are you today?
I'm still Christine Beatty. You know, it's tough when so many things have been written about you as a person. You know, some true, some not.
Beatty's radio talk show is on Saturday nights from 5 to 7 on AM 910.
Christine and her now ex-husband Lou have since divorced, but that did not stop Christine from thanking him for being with her during that painful time. Lou and Christine have 2 daughters together and are thankful that they can now move on from this messy Detroit scandal. Let's take a listen to what she said in this Steve Harvey interview she did.
But actually, each one of these people had something that they wanted to say to you. Christina, what do you want to say to Lou?
Well, I kind of lied to get you here. I told him that his kids had something to say to him. So, right. But I...
See, you say I kind of lied to him. They went, That ain't what we doing here.
Right? But for me, I know I've said I'm sorry to you a million times, but I've never said thank you. I've never taken a moment just to tell you thank you for, one, standing in your manhood. To be a black man already is tough enough, but to have stood through what you stood through, and you didn't say, get away from me. We had our trying times, but you chose to forgive me. And that's not an easy choice for everybody. I know, like you said, we had a lot of support, a lot of family, but out of everybody that I thought about bringing here, I wanted to bring you because I needed to show the world what forgiveness looks like, what strength looks like, and what a strong black man looks like. And that's why you're here.
Thank you. That was pretty good right there. Okay, go ahead.
And I didn't cry.
And you didn't cry. You're gonna break down backstage, though.
Oh, wasn't that a heartfelt I'm sorry for the world to see after you embarrassed him by having this whole cheaterization going on in front of the whole world? But nonetheless, they are now, still continue to be friends. Beatty still owes the city of Detroit a little over $78,000 as part of her restitution, but she hasn't made a payment since December of 2013, according to court records. Well, we wish them all the best of luck. Now let's continue on to Carlita Kilpatrick. Let's see what she's been up to lately. Well, it's not too much information on Carlita. It's like she kind of dropped off the face of the earth. However, when she divorced Kwame in 2018, the court documents revealed that they both had been separated since January of 2015, prior to the divorce finalizing in July of 2018. Carlita then moved from Detroit to Texas and started a new life. Now, the word on the curb is that she had a 5-figure job that she was working for in Duncanville, Texas, honey, where they ended up finding money in her drawer, and allegedly she was fired because of this. And I got the clip. Let's roll it.
So, is there any other place that you guys keep any cash here?
In the safe? No. I mean, in the cash room?
Any place, desk, neighbor's house.
I mean, on occasion we may change, like if we don't go put it in the safe, we'll put it in our desk or something in the meantime. It was just it's not kept there.
Okay.
We make change, like on the weekend.
Can we look at Carlita's desk?
I mean, I'm sure you can ask her. You're welcome to look here, welcome to grab her.
Look to see if there's any other cash, any other funds.
Yes.
Take a look at her face.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ooh, you gonna get it. You in trouble, girl.
Can we see what the contents of this is? And what would this represent?
It is change from like overages or different things that we.
Why she keep looking at homegirl to guide her though? You don't know what it's for? Well, as you can see, they started counting that money. They wanted to know where the funds came from. And she didn't look like she was too clear on where it came from and for what reason. However,
To give us a written statement that this is from overages so that we have that documented, because that's important to know that. It's not a criminal offense, but it's not following the procedures, rules. If you could give me a piece of paper for her, just a piece. Or I guess she could just put it down here if that's fine.
Okay.
If you would, this is the grand total of the money that we counted here. To if you could just put on here that per your knowledge that this is overages that have.
that's
not
right,
been
boo. They want your
deposited.
John Hancock on this
Sign
to
off
show
on
that
this,
you had the money in your possession when it should have been deposited.
put everything back here.
That going in the next deposit.
Oh, Carlita. Well, she lost that 5-figure job working for the city of Duncanville, Texas, after they found that money in her drawer. Well, I should say allegedly. But then she went on to a metaphorical one reserved for spouses and families of incarcerated. She was trying to go in there, I guess, in order to duck and dive all of these questions that were being asked in regards to her knowing about the infidelity, knowing about the funds or whatever from what Kwame was going through with the city of Detroit funding. They were asking her questions and wanted to know, was she a criminal? And she was like, stop asking me all these questions. I'm about to go into this whole metaphorical one reserved for spouses and families. So, for the incarcerated. Because I don't want to answer not one of y'all questions. Oh, Carlita. Sidebar, I just want to know who decided to film her getting her drawer checked for them to find that money and stuff in the drawer. Like, literally, who was it that decided to film the whole thing of her having to count out the money and everything? Child, they so messy. Oh, Carlita. Oh, well, y'all, there was no more additional information I could pull up on Carlita. Like her whereabouts, what's she doing today? Did she get remarried? Do she have any new kids that, like Kwame had a whole new life and a whole new wife and child? There was nothing else that I could obtain about Carlita Kilpatrick. And just with all of the additional updated information that I gave you guys about Kwame, Christine, and Carlita, you guys, the whole scenario with everything, there was a murder that was never resolved. There was restitution that was never paid. And there were lives that were destroyed because of this whole scandal. In fact, this was one of the top 3 scandalous things that occurred in the city of Detroit. I want to thank everybody that tuned in for this 4-part episode of The Rise and Fall of Kwame Kilpatrick. Have a good night.